The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 926. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. If you're tired of being the best-kept secret in your industry, listen up. You don't need to be louder, you need to be seen. Grab my free Visible Framework Toolkit, the exact steps I use to go from overlooked to being the go-to expert people turn to for impact and insight. Download it now at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Well, hello friend, welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan, and today I have an amazing lady on the show today. She is an actress, a podcaster, and a producer, and I'm super excited to have her on today to share her story and tips on confidence. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Jenna Ushkowitz. Jenna, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm Jenna. I'm an actress. A Korean-born adoptee, and I grew up in New York, and I started in theater when I was very, very young. I started acting at 3, and I have made my way through theater and Broadway and television. Most people would know me from a TV show called Glee, and I have produced multiple Broadway shows ever since and documentaries and kind of gotten behind the camera. I'm a mom of 2, and I am now venturing into a different space, a startup space, and I host a podcast, a Glee recap podcast called "And That's What You Really Missed," and that's it in a nutshell.
It's so funny. You're just like, that's it. And it's like, you're doing so many. And I think just being Asian, we're just like, yeah, this is what I do. And really, when you're doing like 10 million things. And can I just say, I think one of the benefits of being Asian is Asian don't raisin. And you definitely still look just as young as in your Glee days. So I just wanted to point that out. So I'm sure the listeners are like, what's her skincare regimen? Yeah. But the next question is, what is your favorite self-confidence quote?
One of them that I've always kind of lived by is Dr. Seuss. And of course, being a mom now, I'm deep in all of the children's books, but it's be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind.
I love that, especially, in the world that we're in, ruled by social media and filters. The best thing we can be is be our authentic self, as cheesy as it sounds. People crave authenticity. People are craving what's real, especially with, just the rise with AI as well. That's what they're looking for, and that's what they can relate to. So I love that quote that you mentioned. And in your own words, how do you define self-confidence?
I feel like self-confidence, it stems or is a partner of self-worth. And that's really learning how to love yourself from within. Self-confidence is just walking through the world with a belief in yourself that you can do whatever you put your mind to, you can persevere, you can do hard things. I think that's self-confidence to me.
I love that you mentioned, you can do hard things because we're gonna have to do a lot of hard things in life, right? And it's something we can't escape. And that's how we build our confidence because we can push through it. And I know sometimes we look at people in the media and we're like, oh, they had it so easy when really they've been putting in the work day in and day out and nobody hears the story behind their glory. So I love that you mentioned that because I think it's so important and such a reminder for our listeners. And Jenna, what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
It's funny. I've always thought about like when it was that I felt confident or like what that period was before I felt it. And because I started performing at such a young age, I either had it very early on or my parents instilled that in me or I was faking it. I can't really tell you which one it was when I was younger because there were definitely times in my adult life that I was lacking self-confidence, but from a very, very early age, I felt like I had it or I was feigning it. And that even that alone got me through a lot. Now, I think in that time there were dips of time obviously where my confidence was broken or lacking. And that was, it's a tough period because you're obviously questioning yourself and you're questioning every move you make, every choice you make, if everything is this the right step? But I think the idea of like feigning confidence too helped me get through those times, even if they were tough and did make me question myself.
Thanks for sharing that. And I think that totally makes sense in what you've done, right? Being in theater and acting. It's like sometimes you just put on this character, like, actresses and actors and singers, they have like a second personality, kind of like how Beyonce had Sasha Fierce. And sometimes you kind of just need to put that on to kind of push through. And at that time, you might not have been the most confident, but you learned to push through it regardless because you started at such a young age. I mean, acting is like a lot of work. It takes a lot of confidence to put yourself out there and be on stage and be seen and also be judged by other people, right? They're going to be like, is it good or not good? So there's a lot of things that, of course, we can probably get into that will probably take way more time than we're supposed to. But, I wanted to ask, what was that point in your life when you realized you can go out there and do like anything you put your mind into, right? Like, especially, you went into acting, producing, podcasting, and now startups, right? Which is like a totally different industry. Like, what made you realize you can go out there and do it?
I think it was like this string of events, just like you kind of named, starting really young and kind of doing all these different things, pivoting in my career. They all kind of had this through line, but I think I may have just done it before I even had the confidence. Like I was saying, that like feigning confidence of like you just jumping in and kind of taking the risk and the dive. I think as an actor, we learned very early on. And I think I had these tools in my arsenal of like the mask to help me get through, even if it was hard or I didn't have the confidence that day to get on stage or get in an audition room or hear no for the hundredth time. So I think that there were just times where I had all of these kind of things to pull out of my toolbox. And so it just took me in a direction of being able to take the risk and the dive, even if I didn't feel 100% about what I was doing. But I think each moment has gotten me a little bit further along to feel more confident that like taking that risk is actually worth it, even if there is a failure, even if there is something that didn't work out. I think just having the hindsight to see like, oh wow, I can do this and not succeed, and that's actually growth and that's going to get me farther, and having the ability to like look within and say like this isn't my failures or whatever you want to call them. I hate failures because I don't think anything is really a failure, but these things that didn't work out, they were steps in a different direction that was probably the right direction for me.
I love this because I think this is so refreshing to hear, especially like, you've been in the industry for so long. And like you mentioned, you still get rejections, you're still putting yourself out there. And I also talk about like this strategy that I shared in my latest book about ready, fire, aim. You start before you're ready, you take action, and you like pivot as you go because that's how we get the results. We don't get the results by overthinking or waiting for that perfect moment. It's just sometimes you just got to dive in, and if you fail, you're failing forward, right? And I think there's nothing wrong with the word failure. It's just how people perceive it because, especially in school systems, once you fail, it's like it's the end of the world. Like I know because I failed kindergarten in the Philippines for coloring outside the lines of a photo. So that notion of failure took me into my adult life, and I had to learn that the hard way, but I'm glad I learned it like later than never. So you sharing like, yeah, I just went for it, even if I wasn't ready, I'm just gonna do it. Whatever the risk, there's always a reward. And even if I failed, I'm still growing and I can move on to the next. And so I just want to say thank you for sharing that. I think that's a great answer and that, it's something every person listening right now could relate to because it's not talked about enough. And, because of your realizations, what's your life been like now?
It's really just opened up all the doors of opportunity for me, and I feel like there's just, it's like the world is your oyster. If I want to take a risk and go this way, I feel like I know in my heart, like instinctually what's gonna work and what's not. Like I know enough now. I have enough wherewithal to say like, oh, I think I'm really gonna enjoy this part. This is gonna be challenging for me. I'm not gonna like this part of it. So how do I fix that? Or how do I adapt to that? And so I'm a much I don't know, I don't even want to say happier because I've always been very happy and really settled in my life. But I do think that it's definitely given me perspective on how I approach things and how I get through those challenging parts of those journeys because they're tough and there's always going to be hard moments, and having the self-confidence to know that like persevering what no matter the outcome is actually more important than anything that is going to be the result.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned like, yeah, you're ready. Whatever life gives you, you have the tools to do it. You're gonna keep doing it. You're gonna keep going. And, it's paving the way for so many of us, to realize what's possible, to go for it, to break those barriers because it's so needed now more than ever. And, if a woman's listening to your episode and she's in her journey to self-confidence, what would be that one tip or a couple tips that you would share with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the theme of this episode for me has been fake it till you make it, right? Like, I don't think there's any good, perfect time to start anything, whether it's pivoting a career, starting a business, starting a family, there's just like, there's no perfect time. So if you can just like kind of look within and ask yourself, what is it that you really want? And what do you need to get there? And starting with, the journey of self-confidence and self-worth and really looking inward to working on the hard stuff. It took me a long time and I don't think I ever resisted it, but like talk therapy, getting back to the root of my childhood and my, challenges, traumas, whatever you want to call it. Like I think that doing the work to go backwards, to go forward is absolutely necessary and it really opens up a new world. So I would suggest that doing the work and also just getting to the root of like self-love. And yeah, and then just believing that you can. It's really I know it's much harder than it sounds, but having that in your mind, like just small affirmations that get you through those small moments throughout the day that feel hard, that make you spiral. And I think that everybody's journey is different.
Thanks for sharing all those tips, and it's so true. Belief is so important, especially in ourselves, because that's what really propels us to take the action. Without that self-belief, we're not going to go out there and do the things, fail forward and get rejected and keep moving forward in times of, crazy times that we're going through today. And so I love all the tips that you mentioned and also learning to like work backwards because especially like you know, in Asian culture, trauma is not something we talk about. Mental health is considered not real sometimes. And it's like these things are actual situations that we have to work through. And that work is not going to be pretty. It's going to be really ugly, but it is necessary so we can move forward and be the best person that we can be. So I love all those tips that you mentioned. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, check out your work, check out your podcast and your new startup, is there any links or social media profiles we could connect with?
Yeah, yeah. I'm mainly on Instagram, so Jenna Ushkowitz there. I'm also on, all the other channels, but Instagram is where I really live. And then I'm actually working with Asian American Girl Club, and it's been around for quite a few years, but we're building and scaling now. So you can go to AsianAmericanGirlClub.com and check us out. And it's just a really great hub for community and, helping future generations of young leaders and then also listen to the podcast. It's called And That's What You Really Missed on wherever you get your podcasts.
I love it. And I love that, you guys are creating a platform to elevate, especially Asian American girls and women, because like it's so needed. I wish that was something that I had growing up because I definitely did not have that. I had to like decide to just create something so that other women can see what's possible, especially Asian women, because It's so needed. There's so many amazing Asian women out there doing amazing things, and then nobody talks about it. So thank you for creating that and have like something that we can leave for future generations. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Jenna, you can also head on over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for her name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I just really want to thank Jenna today for taking the time to share her story and wisdom on self-confidence. So thank you so much, Jenna.
Yes, thank you.
Not a problem. It was an honor having you on the show. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. You can now purchase Bridging the Confidence Gap, How Empowered Women Change the World on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, Indigo, and other book retailers sold worldwide. Get your copy today. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. Please subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to get your daily boost of confidence.